My name is Rick Petherbridge, and I'm here to talk tennis. And there's no way we can talk about the 2020 tennis season without talking about COVID-19. I, like many Southern Californians, was packing my bags, getting ready to go to Indian Wells, which is a tournament I attend each year. Love it to death. And of course, in the middle of packing, we got the notice that Indian Wells was canceled. Being a huge tennis fan, I also had plans to attend the French Open. And I thought, well, I'd have a shot, right? Maybe this COVID-19 thing wouldn't last so long. And of course, the clay court season was canceled or postponed in the case of the French Open. And the grass court season as well. I also had plans to attend the US Open this year. And thankfully, the US Open is being played. However, no fans are being allowed. Here we are in August with our sport just getting organized in terms of formats that allow us to start playing tennis again, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's a little interesting the way the different tournaments have decided, right? So the US Open has gone with a fairly restrictive format. It's kind of a bubble situation where both the Cincinnati Masters and the US Open are being played at Flushing Meadows. Players are only allowed to bring an entourage of 3 people. They're being monitored very closely to make sure that there's no issues in terms of the COVID-19. The French Open, what's going to happen next month, is being a little bit less restrictive. My understanding is that they are going to allow fans to attend, and right now they plan to have about 50% of the capacity available to fans. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And of course, as a tennis fan and someone who loves tennis, it would be great if we can get back to live audiences watching tennis again. And I'm just happy to have tennis on the TV and seeing all the players that I love playing again. Okay, so let's move on to a preview of the US Open, which is going to start on Monday, August 31st. And I'm going to begin with the men's draw. The first thing that we have to say is that there are some important players that are not playing. That is going to have a big impact on the draw. So let's talk about those first. Federer, of course, is injured and out for the year. Nadal made a decision not to play at the US Open, despite the fact that he could have played. Wawrinka has also chosen not to play at the US Open this year. And of course, that opens up opportunities for the other players in the draw. And I'm sure they're happy to get a chance to win a Grand Slam without having to beat any of those guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the draw, the men's draw, and I'm going to divide it into parts, focusing on, first we'll start with the favorites, right? And these are the players that I think have the best chance of winning the Open. And of course, the first favorite has to be Djokovic. And let's talk about Djokovic a little bit. This season is huge for him. He is in a battle with Federer and Nadal to be the greatest of all time. And of course, everyone at this point is chasing Federer, who has 20 Grand Slams. Nadal has 19 Grand Slams. And Djokovic, if you remember, won the Australian Open this year. So he now has 17 Grand Slams. So he's 3 behind Federer and he's 2 behind Nadal. And this is a great opportunity for him to catch up a little bit on both of them, since neither of them are playing at the US Open. Okay, let's go on and consider some of the other favorites for the US Open. And in my second favorite position, I have Dominic Thiem, great clay court player, hits big off of both sides, huge top spin, very strong, fit player. Of course, he's had most of his success on clay. He made it to the French Open final last year in 2019, and also in 2018, losing both times to Nadal. There's no shame in losing a final on clay to Nadal. He's getting better each year, and he has become a better hard court player, which is something that I really respect about his game. He's not satisfied to just being a great clay court player. He has worked on elements of his game, and his hard court game is getting better each year. And I think it's only a matter of time before he starts winning more hard court events. Okay, so let's move on to my third favorite, and that's Medvedev. I got an opportunity to see Medvedev play a couple of times last year at the US Open. And I always remember that US Open final that he had last year against Nadal. It was a very good 5-set match. And I was just so impressed with Medvedev's ability to compete and his fitness and his stamina, taking Nadal to a 5-setter and just barely losing that 5th set 6-4. One thing that's really interesting about Medvedev is that he's 6 feet 6 inches tall. He's a really tall guy. And traditionally in tennis, most of the tall guys have either been big hitters or big servers, right? So I think of guys like Juan Martín del Potro, amazing, great tennis player, hits huge off of both sides, has a great serve, but he's not the greatest mover, right? And if you think of some of the other players, Zverev is also 6'6", also great hitter, hits really clean strokes, but not the best mover. Even a guy like Raonic, who's 6'5", cannot stay on the baseline against players, right? And he's a serve volleyer, and his tactic is to get to the net as quickly as possible. But I think Medvedev may be the first 6'6" player that I've seen that can hang in rallies with players like Nadal, like Federer, like Djokovic. He can hit your 30-ball rally and doesn't seem to get tired like the other big guys do. He moves much better than the other 6'6" players. And it's an interesting thing about him. He plays a very defensive posture in that he's very far behind the baseline, right? And that means that you do even more running than somebody who's right up on the baseline. And despite his height, he's able to do that. And then, of course, he's just an amazing competitor, right? He seems to always be able to find a way to win, you know, even in matches that he's down. And for someone 6'6", he has huge stamina, right? Another thing that we're not used to seeing is these guys, the bigger guys, being able to pull out 5-set matches, right? Most of them start to get tired and just can't compete at that same level. But somehow he seems to be able to do that. Well, you know, he's young, he's just 24. His defensive style may get to him, we'll see. Okay, so let's move on now. And now I'm going to talk about some of the American players that are in the draw. I know a lot of us like to follow our American players. So I'm just going to go through, say, the top 5 favorites that I have. And so, of course, you're always going to start with Isner. And my understanding is that the courts are playing pretty fast and the weather's been pretty hot. And that gives a big server a real opportunity to serve your way through a match. And that's exactly the type of tennis that Isner plays. And I think that he should do well. Now, again, Isner has the rap that most big guys, I think he's 6'9", have, and that is that he just doesn't have the speed or the mobility or the stamina, right, to play a bunch of 5-set matches and to get all the way through a Grand Slam. But I think that he has the serve and the game to get to the quarterfinals or the semifinals and be a tough out, right? That nobody wants to see him in the draw because his serve is that big. All right, so we're talking about big servers, so I have to talk about the other big American server, and that's Reilly Opelka. He's even taller than Isner. He's 6'11", right? So he's like Ivo Karlovic big, has a huge serve, good forehand, and he's already made it to 39 in the world. He's a young guy. It'll be interesting to see how far his big serve game will take him. And it'll be interesting to see if, he can develop some of the other skills that will allow him to get into the top 10 and stay in the top 10. He certainly has the serve to do it, but at this point, he doesn't have the defensive skills and the variety of tennis skills that we see traditionally in a top 10 player. Okay, so let's move on. The next American would be Taylor Fritz. He is a good all-around player. He's still relatively young. He's ranked 24 in the world. He's been getting better each year. And again, he's not, in my opinion, ready to win a Grand Slam event, but he's somebody that we can look to in the future if he continues to work hard and he continues to improve, that he has the potential to be a top 10 player and eventually a Grand Slam winner.